take us through how Copado with multi-cloud architecture will perform. So over to you guys, Anmol and Shweta, and Lex as well. So I have Lex. Yeah, I mean, like he will be representing the team as well over here.
Hello, hello. Hi, can you hear me okay? All right, great. Thank you. So Lex Williams, Alexis, nice to meet you. At Copado, VP of Engineering, but let me assure you, I went ahead and been in your shoes before. So before this, enterprise architect, technical architect, integration architect, and there were those 10 years that I spent at Salesforce also in tech and prod. So if any of you have heard of the Agile Accelerator, worked on that project. Hopefully you've heard of the App Exchange, worked there as well. So just a few different years of experience, about 14 years of experience within the Salesforce ecosystem, 9 times certified. So I have my certified application architect, 2 more certs to go ahead and get down. Even though I'm a VP, I do intend to go ahead and get my CSA. I probably am going to go ahead and give up on my CTA. So with that being said, our last presentation I thought was really interesting with the shell script, go ahead and kick off the SFDX commands to go ahead and publish an actual package. I just wanted to go ahead and get a feel for the audience. How many of you guys go ahead and every day or occasionally do you go ahead and write shell scripts? Anybody shell scripting out here? Good, some love for shell scripting. Bash or shell? Okay, all right, awesome. Shell, okay. So that's it? That's all the scripters I have out here? All right, what about Python? Okay, good. And those SFDX commands. How many people rolls off the tongue? You're like, hey, I don't remember them. So I go ahead and do SFDX commands. I go ahead and grep that out, and then I ask for what I want. How many people by heart do you know your SFDX commands? Nobody's memorized SFDX commands? Okay, there we go. A few people have memorized SFDX commands. But for the rest of us that haven't gone ahead and memorized those SFDX commands, Copado helps us to go ahead and still be productive, still go ahead and get from the inception of your idea to the delivery of the idea. With that, you can see the future of low code is here. And that's what I'm trying to go ahead and address, is how do you go ahead and take that idea as a different constituent, a different member, or a different skill set, and still be a productive member of your organization. So, as we can see, there's a large group of individuals that are behind the digital transformation. To me, as an enterprise architect, I really, really like this because I can see this represents a true technology stack that I would have gone ahead and created for my customers. Let's say I'm working with an automotive company. The automotive company is going to go ahead and do a few things. They're going to go ahead and produce vehicles. They're also going to want to go ahead and distribute those vehicles. They're going to keep an inventory of what's on hand at stock. They might even go ahead and offer the financing at your dealership. So if we look at that, we have Salesforce, we have Velocity, so we can have our OmniScript, our guided flows, our integration procedures, our data raptors. We also have SAP and Oracle to go ahead and handle our inventory, or we're going to go ahead and use Oracle ESB or something. I don't know why somebody would. And we have ServiceNow in case you're going to go ahead and engage your service team or your engineering team. Quite often, they might not be on Salesforce. They might actually be in ServiceNow. So we have to go ahead and have an integration layer. To that, we also have Workday as our HCM. Encino, I was talking about that loans. How do we go ahead and do loan origination? We need to start those loans somewhere. Very common to go ahead and use Encino for that. And lastly, what I would prefer as my integration layer instead would be Mulesoft. So this touches base on an actual use case for not just a multi-cloud Salesforce, but for a multi-cloud enterprise solution with multiple systems of truth utilizing Salesforce as your system of engagement. And that's what we're looking at, is how do we go ahead and deliver that? Traditionally, you had your infrastructure, your custom development, but now you have an entire team of individuals to help contribute to that. What's in between though? How do you get from inception of idea to the delivery of idea? How do you deal with that gap in between? We have three things that we've called out here: the silos in technology, the silos in process, and the silos between your team. And that's what we're looking at going ahead and breaking down. All of those create inefficiencies and the cost of inefficiencies through the processes. They also go ahead and drive up the ability for breaks and time to market delays. As I've stated earlier, what's essential here is speed, the time to market, the adoption of your features, your functionality, as well as the cost. The longer it takes you to get to market, the higher the cost is. The business challenges. The longer it takes you to get to market, are you going to lose potential customers? Poor productivity as well, and then declining margins. Quality. If it takes you to get there forever, what about the quality of your product? Are you going to have frequent outages? How long is it going to take you to recover from an outage? How long is it going to go ahead and take you to put that fix into production? What we have here is the reason why everybody in this building is here. Our business development value streams, all of us are here to go ahead and provide a solution to our customers. We want to do that in the most cost-efficient manner. And in order to do that, we have to go ahead and unlock each individual. So whether or not you're a developer, whether or not you're a business analyst, you're an architect, you need to be able to contribute to that. So you need to be able to go ahead and get into the idea origination, go through the process of build, verify, deliver, into monitor and plan. And when we look at this, by utilizing systems such as Copado, talk about those three essential elements earlier. So it looks like my microphone's changed. You can go ahead and realize what we talked about earlier is an increase to speed. So the amount of time it takes you to get to market, an increase in the value. So your ROI, your NPV, and also the time that it takes in less than 6 months to get there, as well as quality. How do you improve the overall quality of the product delivered? How do you verify the product that you intended to deliver was what you actually did deliver? And that's really by going ahead and focusing on several key elements that we provide. So Copado has an actual user interface to go ahead and make this easier. A lot of you use Flow Editor. To me, it's like Flow Editor for coding. I have that same type of interface now for DevOps. Automated testing through Copado Robotics Test Framework. I don't know how many folks have enjoyed going ahead and running or creating Selenium scripts, going ahead and running a Selenium grid, or utilizing infrastructure as a service, such as Sauce Labs. There's a lot of complexity there. There's a lot of pain that goes into that. Instead, that's abstracted away for you. Finally, another key element, security and governance. So with Copado, you also have CCH. It's a very handy tool. People in here, are you used to using PMD? Anybody PMD users? One PMD user, okay. So PMD goes ahead and allows you to write custom rules. Those custom rules can be written in Java, those custom rules can be written in XML. We go ahead and leverage that so we can have the ability to write custom rules that would validate and say, on this deployment, did I go ahead and have anybody from a specific profile permission set that was allowed to go ahead and have like view all, modify all access? we want to fail the build if that's the case. So that's why security and governance is essential. And then along with that, you also do go ahead and get the other aspects, continuous delivery, continuous integration, and then version control. Either you can go ahead and use our version control, or you can use your version control. So. Again, this is just pointing out for the continuous delivery cycle, the elements in each of the product suite that we have to incorporate into that development process. And this is the key to me, what puts it all together. So we have our value stream to go ahead and deliver the product to our customer, and then we have our actual platform. So the platform is a holistic platform that deals with DevOps analytics, value stream planning, continuous integration, delivery. Of course, underscoring that foundation is Copado Robotics Testing, security and compliance, the integration that we do with other technology stacks, and then also the low-code development, low-code DevOps pipelines. Especially useful there are things like Copado Functions that go ahead and extend our platform. So in case there's features and functionality that your customers have that are not built out of the box, you can extend our platform. And I heard that earlier about why was Salesforce successful? Because of what Salesforce provided. Did they go ahead and beat the competitors strictly on the ability to deliver more features? Or did they unlock the ability to create those features by their constituents? And that's what we're doing here. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to my colleagues. Thank you for your time.
All right. So before we start, just to wake you up, how many guys have heard of Amazon Lambda, AWS Lambda? Yes. Google Cloud Function? Google Cloud Functions? No. And Azure Functions? No one? Okay, you are the brave guy. All right, I will go back to Alex's slide first, if I can. Okay, so we'll look at this slide from a different perspective. I don't know if you guys know. So before 1 year, Copado was solely a Salesforce DevOps, like a native Salesforce DevOps company. And within 1 year, you can see we have support for Mulesoft, SAP, and all those different clouds. And we are now a multi-cloud company. So in this session, I will be talking about how we transitioned from Salesforce to multi-cloud within just 1 year. Okay. So the agenda for today is I will talk about functions, Copado functions, and then we'll see it in action using a live demo. And then we'll talk about job engine, and then my colleague will talk about how to add quality to it. So coming next. So Copado function. Why do we need a Copado function? So if you see, different clouds have their own silos, they have their own knowledge base, and we cannot cover everything. Mulesoft has its own terminology, and we need expertise in that field. So instead of building a solution for each cloud in a different way, we decided to transform Copado as a application into a Copado as a platform. And then all our partners or even our clients can work on top of it and deliver their own features. So for that, we created Copado Functions, which is just a serverless compute service. And we take care of all the resources in it, all the underlying compute resources. And you just have to write your own code and be done with it. We'll take care of everything else. And where you should use Copado Functions. So whenever you have a high processing task, maybe traveling salesman problem, or you want to do some high computation tasks, you can use Copado function, or maybe you want to write your code in a different language than Apex or LWC. So in that case, maybe you want to write your code in Python. You're good at Python or Bash scripts. So in that case, you can use Copado function. So coming next. So I'll first cover the basic principles of what function is and how you should use it. So functions are orchestrated from your Salesforce org. So yes, you still need the Salesforce org. And then the Salesforce will send the request to your backend for executing those functions. And functions are in the backend, they are stateless. So they don't know about Salesforce or anything else. So we can send data from your Salesforce org into that function using parameters. We'll talk more about it later, but yeah, that's the communication channel. We use different parameters and we'll send it to the backend. So in your script, sales scripts or Python scripts, you can use those parameters as you need them. And then how the backend communicates. So the communication from backend to Salesforce, it can happen in two ways. One is those platform events, and there's a command like Copado-P, and then you can send the event to Salesforce, and then Salesforce can respond. And then the other option is like attaching a file. So if there's a long processing task, you have done some work, and then you can send that data back in Salesforce using those files. And the command for that is like Copado-U for upload, and then the file name. Okay, so yeah, that's all cool. Like you can start execution of function. So how do you know, like functions can be long executing processes. So how do you know if a function has finished? So for that, we have callbacks. So whenever a function finishes, either with success or error, you will get a callback. And then in that, you can do all your processing based on the response, whether success or failure. And don't worry, we have an example for that as well. Okay, so like, suppose you are running your code in your laptop. So there you have certain thing of operating system installed. Either you are on Windows or Ubuntu or Mac OS. And then you have on top of it certain applications installed, like maybe a Java application or a Python or Node.js, those stuff. So for that, Copado provides Docker images. Like those are simple Docker images, but they are private to Copado. And they have some pre-installed applications in it. Like for Mulesoft, you need Maven. So you can use the Docker image for Mulesoft, and then you do all your processing there. And then there's a script section. So in that you can write your scripts, and we support right now Node.js, Python, and Bash script. So those are the 3 languages which are supported as of now. Okay, so function types and sizes. So currently, like you can, I mean, just for your knowledge, functions can be of either standard or custom type. But as a partner or a customer, you can only create functions of custom type. Standard ones are reserved for us for internal use of Copado, and we do not charge you for those standard functions. And the size is just the computational resources which will be available. Like it's a relative thing, like small, medium, large, and extra large. So suppose you want to do some high-end processing, and you need it to be fast, so you can use an Excel size. Obviously, we'll charge more for that in the credit limits, but yeah, you will get more resources like extra processing units and stuff. Now coming to the function parameters and context. So yeah, as I said, mentioned before, functions are stateless. So they don't know about your Salesforce org or the data which you want to process. So you need to send some input to that function, and then you can do your processing and send some data back in Salesforce. So the way you can send data to your sales scripts or Python or Bash script is the parameters. And you can create like literals, like constants in your parameter, or you can use a dynamic expression. Like we have our own templating system. So you can use those keywords, and that will pick up the data from your Salesforce org and then send it to the backend. And it's available in backend using the environment variables. So that's important thing. Like in your sales script, you can use $ and then the variable name. And different languages have their own concept. Like for JavaScript, it's process.env. Whatever your parameter is. Yeah, and we also hide those sensitive information. So suppose you have some credentials stored in your Salesforce org, and you are sending that to backend. So obviously those needs to be secured. So none of the other users can see it either in the log file or within the transaction. So we keep track of the security as well. Okay, so just a basic syntax for your dynamic expression can be either $, like a curly brace, $, and then whatever object command field. We'll cover more. There's a documentation as well. So it has all those. Okay, so let's suppose you have written some code which crashes in the backend and it keeps running forever. So then the Copado will think that you have some high-end processing running in the background, and it can start charging you for that. So in case you are sure that, okay, your function is not going to take more than 10 minutes or 20 minutes, you can put like a job timeout thing in the function itself. So even in cases like you are just testing something and your function fails in the background, after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you have put in the timeout thing, the function will kill itself and will not charge more than that 10 minutes. So that's the edge case. Like even if you are making some mistakes, you can avoid getting charged more. And then yeah, the callback thing. So it can be either an Apex class or a flow. So callback is like it just listens to that completion of function, and then it will start executing your code. Okay, and then coming to the execution of function. So I will show you the like a demo as well, but you can execute your function either, like we have a button quick action on the function record page. So you can execute it from there, or using invocable flow, process builder, whatever you prefer, or using an Apex REST API as well. So you can automate your stuff, like you have a third-party Heroku application, so you can start execution of your function from there as well. All right, so time for demo. Okay, so right now I'm logged in org where I have the Copado base package installed. So it's just the Copado base package, nothing else. And I have the licenses for that base package. Like, there are a few permission sets and licenses for executing your function. And these are the 3 functions which are written in different languages. So which one would you like to see? Node, Python, or Shell script? Any preference? No? Python? Okay. All right, let's go with Python script. So, Node, okay. Should we vote for that? Like, raise your hand and I will. Node. Sorry, guys, we have majority for Node. Okay. I mean, it's a simple function in JavaScript. So before going into the script, I will show the detailed screen. So we have a function name and then a function API name. So function API name is important because it needs to be unique throughout your org. And while calling it from either REST API or from outside, we use this unique API name to start invoking your function. And then coming to this configuration. So yeah, this is the image name. And you can put like a proper Docker user, Docker image name, or you can use the shorthand without the base part, like the user, like the domain part, just the name itself. And you can find the list of all the Docker images on the Copado website. So yeah, that's the like Bible for starting your function execution. So here is the list of all the function images which we provide. And these are all like private images, so you cannot execute it from outside. So we have support for Commerce Cloud, Mulesoft, SonarQube, DPL. DPL is for Heroku, if you don't know, and Git util. So it has few Git applications pre-installed in it, the Docker image. And then there's a metadata image, like if you want to query Salesforce or with metadata API. So we have few applications installed there. Okay, so in this case, I'm using the core image, the Copado function core image, and I'm using the version 1. So by default, if you don't add a tag colon version 1, it will pick up the latest version. And then we have a Apex, I will just move it down. So we have a callback of type Apex class, and then I have put an Apex class name. You can have a callback of either Apex class or a flow. So in this case, let's keep it Apex class itself. Any questions till this point? Any questions till this point? No? Okay. All right, so coming to the parameters. So this is the most important piece of information. Like you will be sending data to your backend function, and you are going to send data using this parameter tab. If I click on edit, you can add multiple parameters, and there's no limit. You can add like 50 or 20, whatever you want. But yeah, Salesforce limits come into play, like SQL limits and query limits. So that's important. And we also have a dynamic expression helper. So you can use this to like help you. Like suppose you want to get the source environments, some of the data from your source environment while you are deploying changes from source to destination. And then like you can either access the fields from that source environment or some of the system properties, or maybe just the credentials like session ID or endpoint URL. So you can use it. Or if let's say for you want to access the Git, like the Git repository, because your source of truth is Git. So you can directly use the repository credential. So it will create a dynamic expression, and then you can use it, put it directly in that parameter list. And Copado will, in the background, it will authenticate with your Git repository, and then you can directly access it from there. Okay, and then coming to the script part, which is the core. So first thing, like if you are writing a bash script, you don't need this Shebang thing. Like it's a basic Unix concept, but for different languages. So in this case, I'm using Node. So I have to write Shebang environment and then Node. In case of Python, it will be Python 3 or Python, whichever language you prefer. All right, and then this is my function. So I'm just like, I have few functions like log process, log error, log info. Log info is just console.log that message. And then in the run command, I'm just waiting for, I think 10 seconds, and then I'm logging some information. And remember, I showed you like you can send information from backend to Salesforce using platform event. So you can do using those Copado utility commands like Copado -- progress, and then whatever your message is. And in case you want to fail your function execution, you can say Copado -- error message, and then your message. In case you want to send some data, we'll cover it in a complex script. So you can send some data as well to Salesforce, like a JSON or something. So let's start the execution of this function. Okay, so while executing, there's an important piece of information, which is the context ID. So you will always execute your function from Copado with some context. Like let's say you are committing a change in your user story. So most probably your user story will be your context ID. When you are making deploying some changes from one environment to another, your deployment will be the context ID. And then all those dynamic expressions, they take that into consideration while resolving it. And you can read more about those dynamic expressions here in this slide. So we support all these different type of dynamic expressions, and you can read like there's plenty of information here. So maybe you need some user specific information like users field or user system property. So you can access it using these dynamic expressions. So let's start executing it. All right. So whenever you start an execution, there is a result record which is created in background. And in that, you can monitor the progress and everything. Like in this case, yeah, that command is working. So waiting for 10 seconds. And this is coming from our progress screen. So if I show you the code. Yeah, so we were saying waiting for 10 seconds, and that's the part we are seeing. Okay, the function has already completed. And then if I go to related section, we'll also have a log. So in case something went wrong or there was a problem, you can go and check the log from your Salesforce page itself. So this is this log which was printed. And we have a notification as well. So where did this notification come from? So remember, there is a callback concept in function. And for my function, I put a callback as this class sample function callback. All right. So yeah, this is a global class. You need to make that your callback classes as global because they are different namespaces. So yeah, if you want to expose your callback, you should make it as global, and it needs to implement this interface copado.mc callback. And it has just one method, execute, and it receives function record, result record, and then the status as parameter. So whenever your callback is there, you will have these information. So in this case, I'm simply creating a notification and sending it. So in this case, since it was a success, we received this message. If I go back to the message, so this was the message, and if I click it, I will be redirected to the result record. So that's one case, but maybe you have some advanced cases like you want to have some iterating, like let's say retry process. So you can do that in the callback itself. Like let's say your function fails for whatever reason, you can check the statuses, and based on the status in the callback, you can reinitiate the execution process of your function. So any questions? No? All right. So okay, let's move to the slide. So let's talk about job engine. So yeah, it's good that we have function and we can start execution of everything using a function. But you are not going to execute a function every time you want to commit or promote or deploy changes from one environment to another. So for that, we have a concept of job engine. So it has two parts. One is the job template and then the job execution. So I will show that in the Salesforce org itself, so it's more clear. So templates is something which your release manager will define, or maybe you install a extension pack. Maybe for Mulesoft, you install a package, and that package will have the extension records, like those job templates which are pre-configured. In this case, I have few generic promote template, then rollback template, commit template, and deploy template. So consider them as an action. So let's say you want to commit something. So in that case, you will simply start the execution of these templates, and they will have multiple steps in it. So let me show you an example of a commit template. First, the details section. So it's basic, like you have a template name and you provide a version number. So we take care of the versioning also. So in the background, we just create a unique thing. And you can only create a job template of type custom. So that's one thing. And then you can create multiple steps under your job template. So if I go to this new tab, new thing, currently Copado supports these 3 types of job template steps, which you can either call a function from your job template, a Salesforce flow. So whenever you want to execute something in your Salesforce org itself, like maybe you want to execute an Apex class. So in those cases, since flows are generic enough, we have exposed flow as a type. And then from your flow, you can invoke your Apex class or do whatever you want. And then in some special cases, we have manual task as well. Let's say you are deploying a community. So for the first time, you need to enable some settings in your target org. So that's why we have a manual task, and manual task will have an owner. So like the owner will be notified, he can make those changes and then mark that manual task as completed. And then the next step executions will start. Okay, so in this case, I have this commit thing. So first, what I will do is I will start the execution of these actions. So let me first create a user story. DevOps state demo. And then I will save it. So I have already set up my local development environment, and I will be using 2 Copado specific commands from CLI. Like Copado has its own CLI extension for SFDX. So what I will do is SFDX Copado work set -i, and you can read more about in the documentation, like all the commands which are there. So in the background, it will just create a feature branch for me and then check out in that feature branch. So it's fetching my user story. So it saw Copado is smart enough. It saw that, okay, you don't have a credential set up for your user story. So it's asking you to set up a user credential. Like you will be doing your development in an environment. So that's where this pick list comes in. So I will select dev1 team1. So yeah, I'm connected to a private Git repository. That's why it's asking me for password. Okay, so I'm now switched to this feature branch. I can make some changes. So let's say I'll just add a few exclamation marks, and then I will do a git commit. Okay, so my changes are there, and then I can like deploy it to the remote branch using SFDX Copado command again, SFDX Copado push. So what it does is it will like push all your changes to the remote feature branch, as well as it will create few records in your Salesforce environment, like user story metadata record, and then it will be used for like reporting purposes. All right, so my changes are pushed to the user story record. And if I go to this user story and refresh the page, yeah, so you can see these, I have made some change in the index.js file. So it shows it here. Let's go back to the CLI again, and I can start the submission of my user story from CLI itself. I don't even need to go to Salesforce org. So that's really critical for a multi-cloud developer. Like let's say I'm a Heroku developer. I don't want to switch to Salesforce org and do the promote and deploy from there. I can simply do submit from here itself, and then -d for deployment. So start the deployment from here itself. So yeah, in the background, it created a promotion record for me, same old classic Copado records. And then if I go to deliver section, I will have this promotion record. And remember, I showed you like there are job templates. So in this case, it's running the promote template, which is this one, and you can see the live progress from here itself. Like the messages are started. Let's wait for some time. So it's preparing the repository, like it's authenticating with your Git repository in the background. So it's fetching the feature branch. And then it will simply create a promotion branch and it will try to merge your feature branch into that promotion branch. So I have made this to fail with a merge conflict. Let's see if that happens in demo. So now it's merging the feature branch into promotion and hopefully it should fail. Okay, conflict was found while merging. And then this deployment fails. So, and in the background, the release manager, they will get a notification that something went wrong. So let's fix that merge conflict. I will use the Salesforce Copado UI to resolve the merge conflict instead of going to GitLab and resolving it from there. Okay, so we have a conflict over here. Let's resolve it. So I want the one with maximum exclamation mark. And then I will simply save it. Okay. And then continue to the promotion. Yep. Sorry, can you? Because I wanted to check what was the code there. You can do the auto resolve and then. No. So ideally, like, I mean, yeah, it would have done the same thing. Like it would have taken my code as a priority, but I just wanted to show you like how to do it. Always like whenever in doubt, just go in the code and look at it instead of trusting the algorithms. Okay, so I'll restart the same merge and deploy changes thing, and it will restart the same execution process. So see that the result recorded here was 164, and then it's now changed to 165. So it again created a new result record in background, so you can track the progress there. And then it will take some time. So while it's taking some time, I want to show you the code itself. So let's. So I will show you the promote function. So it's written in shell script or bash script. That's why you see this. And it has, sorry, it has a lot of functionality. Like we use function parameter and then we are logging all those information there. I will show this in the log also. And then it's just doing at a high level, it's just creating a feature branch and then merging it in the promotion branch in the background. And if there is any merge conflict, it will try to fetch the last resolved thing, and then it will use the same strategy to resolve your merge conflicts. So yeah, that's the thing. Sorry, where was I? Okay, so it's still running. So now it's trying to merge the changes again. Hopefully this time it works. So the merge worked and it's now pushing to the remote promotion branch. In the meantime, I will show you the result record also, the log file of this result. Okay, it's still working. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, so it's completed. Let's check the log file. And by the way, once the promotion is complete, it will like auto start the deployment process as well, since we selected promote and deploy. And then let's see the log file. I will just download it since. So yeah, see, you can see all those log information, like all the parameters which are there. And see, since Git credentials is something which is secured and we are not exposing it to the outside in the log file, so it will come up as star, star, star. And since all the rest of information, it's not sensitive. So yeah, we are keeping it as it is. And then if there is in case there was a failure, like in case of merge conflict, there was a failure. So you can even go in, dig down into the log file and check why the merge failed. All right. Yeah, so the deployment is still working. Okay, it's completed. So let's go to the user story record. Okay, and you can see that the user story has moved to the next environment. So that's all good. Like you have continuous integration built in, but there's no point in developing and moving code fast from one environment to another unless it works. Like if you are moving things fast, chances are that you will make mistakes. And then like in that cases, using CI/CD, there are more chances that you will have production crisis. So in order to resolve those stuff, we have Quality Gate in Salesforce as part of Copado. And my colleague Sweta, she will cover those parts. So over to you, Sweta.
Thank you, Anmol. So we saw how functions are used and how we can go ahead with our DevOps journey. But is it really valuable without having a quality for whatever you're producing or you're sending out the code to your clients? So I'm Shweta. I'm a senior software engineer at Copado. So I hope you guys will walk away today knowing a thing or two about Copado Robotic Testing, which I'll be referring as CRT in short. So let's get started. Today's enterprise business processes requires modern day testing. And for a platform like Salesforce, it's become mission critical. According to 2022 State of Salesforce testing report, we found that around 92% of respondents stated that they experience production issues every year due to inadequate testing. So now if we have to think about what could be the reasons, there can be quite a lot of reasons. So what's striking me right now is, say, a technical reason where we have dynamic experts, we have regular backend updates, we do have changes in shadow DOMs, we have changes in the layouts. Combining all these will cause challenge for a traditional test automation or even maintenance part. So we also can think about a business reason. As we all know that Salesforce is critical, it is a center for a lot of revenue generating apps and processes. It is really important to have the quality set. We need robust testing for the same. Also, there's a challenge where quality or the testing has to be a collaborative effort. So Salesforce has enabled a very good feature of having all the users act as developers in their platforms. So, testing has to be reached to a wider audience. And with the Salesforce community, we must make sure that testing is democratized. It is everybody's responsibility that we uphold the quality of the product. So to put everything into a gist, I would say that today's business landscape is changing and we have to adapt to all these changes. We have to keep up with the change. We must also make sure that we have a solution that is scalable for the same. So when it comes to this, we would think, how are the customers dealing with it? So there's a lot of options out there for testing. So that's why we are excited to talk about Copado Robotic Testing today. Copado Robotic Testing improves trust and confidence in delivery with a scalable test automation solution. So what do we give with Copado Robotic Testing for you guys? So it reduces the silos between the teams and it improves the collaboration, and which would help you increase your speed with 10 times more faster testing. Since we have it on a cloud-based solution, Within the clonable robo, we have made sure that we could have 34 times more coverage. And along with that, the value also increases, due to which we have, say, 75% fewer failures, due to which we can have our value increased as well. So one of the feature of Copado Robotic Testing that we want to talk about is embedding testing into a DevOps. So we have a lot of solutions out there for testing. What is it that CRT is different from? So the traditional testing that we have currently, we see that testing is, it's a siloed part. It's a part of a waterfall solution where, it is not really considered as a part of software development. In fact, it is more of a separate entity. But what do we have with CRT is, testing in a DevOps approach. So testing is a part of the software development that we are carrying out, where we are removing the silos between the teams, and we are going ahead and making sure that testing is everybody's responsibility. So we enable all types of users. When we say we enable all types of users, we do mean it. We would need pro code users who are really important for the work, and we have to stay close, but we also have a skill shortage. So in this criteria, we would want everybody to understand, to know, to utilize CRT the way we are providing it. So we have the usage of QForce. This is a library that we are using, wherein it translates it is a very simple, intuitive, and automative language. It's an English kind of language where we can go ahead and, so the user can just say, if they have to write type something into an input box, we would say type text and go ahead and input whatever is required. So what happens is a pro code user can go ahead and use QForce, and they can code whatever test they would want to. And an admin user can always go ahead and use the same. But if the admin user says, I do not want to sit and code, I just want to interact with the application. So in that case, we provide Salesforce Recorder. So what happens with the recorder? We do have a lot of recorder out there. What is the thing that we want, the whole hypothesis of the recording part is that the user is given spit out the code. But what if you have to sit and debug the code? The admin user wouldn't want to do that. So in that case, for the ease of that, we have QForce Word, where even if our recorder spits out a code, that is something that every user can understand on a high level and can go ahead and use the same. So I would like to show you guys how it works. Sorry for the technical issues. It would be there. Okay, so here, can we just? Okay, so you can see here, we are going ahead and typing the code, saying click text and select the new button. So a Salesforce, an admin user would just go and say record. I would want to verify if the lead information is available or not. So just select that, and the code is going to be spit out in CRT, and the user can always go ahead and interact with the application. So when we have our user stories, we would always go ahead and mention the same in our definition of done, saying this is the test and this is a tool that we are using with whatever priority that you want to prioritize your test with, and the feature and the application that it would be going ahead with. So this is how we can go ahead and use our code into, into production. Okay, meanwhile, okay, now it's up. So yeah, we have come up with the integration of Copado Robotic Testing along with Copado. So what do we have here is that our tests will run in our CI/CD pipelines. So with the quality gates, wherein we are defining certain set of conditions or rules on how our tests should be executed. Based on that, whatever code that we have to push into the next environment and until the production, we could go ahead and use the same. By having the integration, we are making sure that we have a proper management of tests. We do have a proper execution of tests based on the user stories that we would want to be moved to the next environment. So I would like to show you guys a demo on the same. So to establish, Copado robotic testing integration along with Copado, we do have certain steps of configuration that we have to start with. So we will have to mention what is the extension configuration that we have. So in the extension configuration, we will be mentioning what is the tool that we are using, how the tool would be interacting with Copado. So we would be providing the details on the extension configuration of what is a tool and what's the name of the configuration that we are giving, and the test type that we are using, because we are trying to test the same in our pipelines. We would be mentioning it as a functional test. On the right hand side, you can see a connection setup, which is the main setup that integrates CRT and Copado. So we have the name credentials where we would be giving the API key name from CRT to Copado, so that we are establishing a connection over there. So the organization and project will be coming from CRT. So now if we go to the test, we do have the test definition. On the right hand side, we have the information on the test. So we can mention what is the test that you will be using. We can always say what is the tool configuration, which we just saw a few seconds back. We can connect the test with the user story, whichever we are using currently, and also a feature and application, so on and so forth. So the organization and project would be pulled in from CRT, whatever you have given in your name credential when you're establishing the connection. And we can provide the suites that is present in that particular project. So the number of suites that's present in that project would be displayed for the user. So we could go ahead and use either of it. So when the user selects a particular suite, we could see the number of test cases in that particular suite listed in the editor below. So this would be the test that is available in CRT in your local. So we can always go ahead and verify that, okay, hey, these are the test cases that I have in this particular suite. Do I have to go ahead and execute it or not? So we have this part, and then we do come to selected test case. Say I have a suite of, say, 10 test cases, and I do not want to run everything. So I can always go ahead and mention the test case name, which the user can always copy from the editor below, and mention that these are the test cases that I want to execute. I do not want to execute the other test cases for this particular user story, because this is something that it is concentrating on. So we could go ahead and select the same. So once we do this, we do have a run button, which would run the test cases manually, because we are going ahead with the same. If you can see, we have open queue editor and a refresh button. When we say queue editor in CRT, whatever we go ahead and code, it is in queue editor. So that's the editor that we are currently using. So whenever we go ahead and select the same, the user will be taken to CRT and with the edit mode of that particular suite that is selected already. And the refresh button, obviously, as it states, whenever we have a change of code in CRT, just do the changes over there and come and verify the same over here. So now that the user has clicked on run, a job has been started to execute on seeing are the test cases being executed or not. On the right hand side, you can see the live status indicator. this is again an amazing feature where you can see what your test is currently in, which stage it is in. Is it compiling? Is it executing properly? Is it not? Is it going to be failed, or whatever status it is currently with? So we provide a tab. Yeah. So this is CRT, where as we saw that we just clicked on run. Our test is started executed there. You can also see in CRT that the execution has started. So this is an integration that we are talking about, that we can always, trigger the test from Copado. And now we can see the results in the results tab on the test that has been executed, be it failed, canceled, or in progress. Now let's take a example of failed test case. So you can see the status mentioned as failed, and also we get to know what is it that is causing the failure. So we always have the link, where the link will take you to Copado Robotics Testing page, and you can see that you can verify what is the error over here. So we can see the verify text is the issue. The screen couldn't verify the particular text. So, and also which is a test case that's failed? It's the test the homepage 7. So this way we can understand what is a failure, or the number of tests that is passed. All the details you could see through the same link from where we found the results. So now we saw this one through a manual way by going ahead and clicking it. Now, if we had to have it in our quality gates, we could have our user story where we would be mentioning that this is a test case that I want to run for this particular code change. So we have a test tab over here. We can go ahead and mention what is a test there. With the user story, we would go ahead and commit here. In this case, we are committing to metadata. And once we go ahead and say promote and deploy, we have a connection behavior that is set. So it's an automation connection behavior that we have, which status what is the test case that we have configured. So this is again with respect to quality gates, which is saying that this is a condition that you have to go ahead before you pass this particular code to the next environment. And when we do that, we could see that this is a deployment page where our quality gates has executed these functions saying that this particular test is run and it is executed with errors. So you can always go and check that your deployment is being failed with the particular result ID. So you can find the result ID as well. So with this feature, you can always go ahead and test your particular user story or your code that is moving from one environment to another environment. So you are very sure that, hey, I'm going and testing this particular test case for this particular user story, which is affecting this part of code. Is it moving to the next environment or not? So be it a new code, be it a regression, say your new code has broken the existing code. So you will be always double sure on what is going to your next environment. Is your code stable enough? And can you go ahead and say, give a thumbs up that you can go ahead and move it to the production or not? So this was all about Copado Robotic Testing and integration with Copado. Do we have any questions? Also, I would like to call Anmol and see how, sorry? Yes, we do have a license for it. Do we have a license?
All right. Okay.
So yeah, Anmol, what are your thoughts on the same?
Thanks, Sudha, for explaining Copado Robotic Testing. It's really cool, like you can do it from UI or you can write a code. And the error failure, it's a saver. Like if something has changed in the background, like a developer has messed up something. So those are the important stuff which will prevent us from failing a production or create a crisis on a weekend. So that's really cool. I have just one thing to add. Like, remember I told you that on a job template, you can either create a job step of type function, manual task, or a flow. So that was not 100% true. Like there is another type which is called test. So our job engine, it also supports a step of type tests, but it's a bit different concept. Like, yeah, quality engineers, they can create those CRT tests, and those are really good. And then at a high level, like quality assurance managers, they can define the quality gate rules. Like, okay, we want to execute these quality gates, either at the pipeline level or for a specific project, or even at the org level. So whenever something is getting deployed to a next environment, let's run these quality tests. And then in the background quality get engine, it will inject those test steps in the job execution. So it will start executing on its own. And whenever a quality get fails, it will start failing the entire deployment. So we will know beforehand, like before deploying anything to the product. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.